Welcome to the Karma Yoga Center Full Moon Astrology Report. This is a big one as it's an eclipse, a total lunar eclipse. And I'm going to try to make that make sense to you in the simplest terms as I can. But before I go into the eclipse and the full moon, I want to talk about another planet that's having a big effect on the whole situation. I'll explain that first and then go into some of the other aspects that are happening at this time. And there's a lot of aspects happening in the cosmos at this time, too many to go into. So this is just a very basic understanding of what's happening. And you probably feel some intensity, some strong pulls on your emotions, and that's totally part of this deal. So the first planet I want to talk about is Uranus. And Uranus is in the sign of Taurus right now, and it is squaring the moon and it's squaring the sun, or it will be exactly tomorrow on Friday. And that square is causing some intensity, the extra intensity. Uranus is already a really intense planet. It's you can think of it as electricity constantly, and electricity is great. We need electricity, but if it hits you in the head, that doesn't feel so good. But it can also light up the kitchen and bring us the luminosity we need to cook. So it goes both ways, and in this particular situation, that's exactly how it could go. So that squaring, two energetic line towards the moon and one energetic line towards the sun is going to play out for us on this eclipse. So an eclipse, in case you don't remember back in science class how that goes, in this particular one, the lunar eclipse, it's the moon, the earth, and the sun. And the sun is casting the earth's shadow onto the moon. So not in our northern hemisphere, I'm in Denver, Colorado right now, we won't see the effects of the eclipse happening. But India and other parts of the world, parts of Africa, they'll see it. But we'll feel it for certain. And one of the things that happens is the moon passes, or the earth rather, passes right in front of the moon, blocks it off, and then goes to the other side. That's a total lunar eclipse. This is one of three in a series, second of three in a series. And they're all playing off of each other. So there's a momentum building by that third one that will happen around August 10th or 11th. This one, the full lunar piece, is bringing a focus to the moon, which is that inner child, the inner self. And it's right next to the moon's south node, which is the soul's past, where we've been in the past. And a big player in this is Mars, also sitting right next to it. They're all boom, 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 three in a row. So this eclipse is really eclipsing Mars and the moon, that south node. Mars is your warrior, it's retrograde. So it's kind of taking a little time, like the warrior gone in the tent and licking his wounds and timing out, but not timing out of its piss and vinegar. Mars has that I'm going to get it. And then if it's wounded, it's going to be even more so. If you've ever seen a wounded animal in nature, they're very tenacious. If they've got a wounded paw or something, they're going to come even more forcefully at you. And I kind of view this Mars retrograde as a little bit of that energy. And then the inner child. So it's like a 2-year-old temper tantrum happening over here of all the things in your past. And then remember that line of energy I said coming from Uranus. It could go, the lightning could go right through that and say, what the hell have you been doing? That's all the energy on this side. Then the sun's over here. And the sun is in Leo, the playful lion, the big-hearted lion, the king of the jungle, likes to be on stage, likes to roar, likes to show its mettle, the lion's mettle. And it's on the north node of the moon. And the north node represents where our soul wants to go. So Uranus could take that same lightning bolt and put it on our playful, lioness, creative, forward-thinking energy, which would be wonderful. We could get that book published, we could write that play, and we could have that party we've been thinking about doing, or all the things that are playful, joyful, and forward motion. So the energy at this lunar eclipse could go in either direction. So that's the big focus. On Mountain Standard Time, it'll be 2:20, so count forward or backwards depending on where you're at. But 2:20 p.m. you can come into that space and direct the energy. Work with the focus of the eclipse and direct the energy where you want it to go. Now, going past and working with Mars in retrograde and your inner child stuff is not a negative thing. And if the lightning is coming in that direction, like if the big question is, what the hell have you been doing? Or what the hell happened there? Or why did you do that? Or any of that is coming up at this time, it's a good time to go in and pull that stuff out. Pull it out, let it be looked at, let it have a place where it can get resolved. But if it's stuff that's been resolved and it's stuff that you've taken care of and you've already put it to bed, the energy of the retrograde, and there are 7 planetary bodies retrograde at this time, and one of them being Uranus coming up on August 7th, I believe, will also join the retrograde situation. So there's a lot of energy in retrograde. Retrograde energy is not bad, but it's like a slowing down. It's a take a deeper look. It's a go inside and think. And if the focus is go inside, take a look, and it's a positive experience for you to maybe be brave and go look at some of that shadow work you need to do, go for it. But if you've done the shadow work and you don't need to pull it back out again, it's like flushing the toilet and then doing it again and taking a look again. Like, let it flush, sorry. But that's kind of it. Let the shit go, in other words. And then on the other side of it, forward motion for the soul is exactly what we want to do. We want to hit that north node moon energy, but if we are driving the bus and not letting spirit drive the bus, we might be taking a wrong detour, especially with that tenacious Leo energy. We might be thinking, oh, this is the time I want to do that thing, and that thing is nowhere on your soul's path. So sitting in the lunar energy that's happening tomorrow and sitting with that soul self and asking that soul self just exactly what you need is my recommendation. A little meditation, some mantra, and I'll give you a mantra at the end that's really good to do with the moon energy, and listening to what's truth. Does this need to stay buried? Do I need to drudge it up? Is this where I need to go? Is this the place I want to head into? Is this for my best interest, my highest self, my soul's purpose? Then go in that direction. But you get to hold those two energies. Earth is in the middle, you're on planet Earth. Sit in between that little lunar girl or boy inside yourself and listen to what they have to say. Listen to that outspoken sunny self that shows up in the world and see what it has to say. And then somewhere in the middle is the answer for the two. And then you get into that alignment. This is the longest eclipse that has been, I don't want to misquote the years, but over 40 years since the duration of an eclipse this long. So we have a little more time to work with it. I think that's a beautiful blessing. The other thing that's interesting about this, if we could see the eclipse, the moon would turn like a blood red in that total eclipse moment. And at the same time, remember, right next to it is Mars. And interestingly enough, Mars, a red planet, is as close to Earth as it's been in a very long time. It's something like 30 million miles away as opposed to usually 140 million miles away. So it's super close. It's going to look extra red. And those two big red energies is a lot of root chakra. And it's right around that south node, conjunct to the south node, which is your past stuff. So I think it's another time to look at root chakra stuff to help us stay really grounded. Use the redness of the moon, the redness of Mars, the taming of that warrior's energy a little bit, taking that retrograde time out, and let yourself Ground down. Find out the root of the situation. What's the root of that situation that might keep popping up from the past? And the past stuff is not just this life. It's not just the shizzle that's coming up from this life. It's the shizzle from all the lives. The karmic ancestral shizzle from all the lives. I'm feeling bad that I had a bad word earlier, so I'm shifting to shizzle. But sometimes it's important to work through that, and sometimes it's let it stay flushed, especially when we've already worked through it. But the retrograde energy tends to be a little bit of a trickster, like Loki, if you're familiar with the Norse god. The trickster energy to make you think that everything seems what it is, but it's really something else behind the scenes. Retrograde doesn't mean it's something's going backwards. A retrograde is like two trains pulling up beside each other. One's going faster than the other, so the other one seemingly is going backwards. So it's not what it appears to be. That's the energy of all these retrogrades that are happening right now, and particularly that fierce one that's on Mars. So it's a little tricky. Do you really need to look at the shizzle in the past right now, or can you bury it and let it go and put it through that eclipse portal? There's a portal that opens. It's like when that moon and Earth come into that cross, it's like a black hole. And so what I do, and Michael, when we do a ceremony at the eclipses, is we wait for that moment, and when we take the energy and we let it go through the portal, we release it. All the RE words are really particularly potent at the retrograde time. And with 7 different planetary bodies in retrograde, you can start pulling those RE words out left and right. What do I mean by RE words? Release, remember, revisit, reinvent yourself. There's all kinds. I could go on forever. Your reactions, that little temper tantrum that the Mars moon child in the past life energy might be showing up, get your reactions under control. And then the same going into the future stuff, like rebuild, reinvent, reinvigorate. There's all kinds of ways that you can use the RE words positive and be aware of how they can be shadow at the same time. A last little bit that I wanted to talk about in this particular report, and like I said, there's so many aspects that we could talk about. It's a big, heavy time cosmo-wise on us. And the one is a positive trine, we call it. A trine is when there's a harmonious energy between two planets. And the planetary body, it's a dwarf planet, Chiron, is sitting in the sign of Aries, and Aries is a fire sign. And it's trining or having a harmonious energy with the Sun in Leo. So you can use that old wound, similar to what we're talking about. It's very similar. Chiron's energy is similar to that Mars and Moon conjunction that's happening. So what's flaring up over there, you can use this trine of the Chiron wound to the Sun and let that light of the Sun heal it. Let the power of that Leo lion heal it, and just pull in some of that Chiron energy right into the heart of the lion, right into your own heart of the lion. That's one really beautiful energy that's happening. And another positive trine that's going on is our beautiful planet Venus, who's a sister to our sun, and she's in Virgo, and she is trining with the planet of Pluto. We consider in our particular astrology lineage Pluto to be the soul story, and it's trining with Venus, or love and abundance. So we can let our soul receive some of the nourishment, some of that loving abundance that can come by just being in the cosmic flow, by being connected to all that is, the Ritam we say in Sanskrit. So with Venus in the sign of Virgo, Virgo is health and daily routine. Just maybe ground yourself with some of that red energy, with some nice daily routines, getting ready for school to start back up. Summer takes us out of routine. Start to bring back in the routine. That'll help get things so that we feel stable, and we can make a clear, conscious choice of how we want to work with this eclipse on Friday, 2/20. And then you can also take that healing sun and take it right to the wound, and then love on your little warrior over there, your little girl or boy warrior that's nestled up next to your little inner child self, and let just little pats to that place, gentle, not being the warrior on your warrior, not being defensive, not being aggressive, not being over dramatic. And speaking of those last three words, the last final piece that is happening is Mercury retrograde. It went retrograde yesterday. We're a little more familiar with that one in astrology talk. It happens 2 to 3 times a year, and it lasts for about 21 days. So for about the next 20 days, we're going to be in Mercury retrograde. I personally don't mind when Mercury retrograde comes around. I don't think it's a negative thing, but if we're not working with it, it can slap us around a little bit with communication problems, over dramatization of things, aggression, conflict. It can show up in our technology, it can show up in transportation, and like I said, communication. So the computers and the cell phones and all that can go kaput. But if you work with it, it's a really good time to see how you're dealing with your own stuff, how you are dealing with your own personal communication. Are you lining up with spirit? Are you lining up with who you are in that soul self so that your soul can move forward in that north node energy? Can it let rest the things of the south node, the past energies? And when you're in that energy of soul alignment, it's easier to discern what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. And those are all moral compass issues for your own personal self. Not society saying what's right or wrong, not your parents saying what's right or wrong, not the government telling you what's right or wrong, but what you sit with internally and decide for your own self. What's my right? What's my wrong? What's good path, red road for me, as the Native Americans use? Well, that's a lot on this full moon lunar eclipse report from Karma Yoga Center. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Michael will bring you the new moon report. And in the meantime, light a candle, get ready, and be prepared for those Aries releases. Namaste. Namaste. Here's the mantra for the full moon lunar eclipse. The word soma in Sanskrit means, for a loose translation, it means the juice or the sweetness or the fluidity, the flow of something. So the moon's juice is the soma. And we sing a mantra to invoke that flow of the moon energy. And there's a string of words put together to make the mantra. The first is more familiar to most people, the sound Om, and then it's Shreem. Shreem is the most beautiful point something can reach. When the sunset, it's at its finest point, so beautiful. That's Shri. When a flower opens just before it begins to fade again to its death, it's Shri. So Om Shreem. Put the M at the end, hitting the top of your palate for that. Om Shreem Som, it's the seed sound of Soma. Somaye is the long extended version. Namaha, we offer it up. Om Shreem Som Somaye Namaha. You can chant this perhaps during the eclipse time. Again, maybe light a candle and come into your sacred space and just hold a few moments in meditation, allowing yourself to center to your soul self. Then you can begin the chant. Start by taking a big breath in, releasing it out. Inhale to sing. Om Shreem Som Somaye Namaha. Om Shreem Som Somaye Namaha. Om Shreem Som Somaye Namaha. Om Shreem Som Somaye Namaha.